Hey beautifuls, welcome back to my Chanel and welcome to an extra special dose of the Swan Girls!
Why aren't you making it to the pageant?
My goodness me, have I had some funny stories about this video, my loves. This video has taken me a very long time to research, and so I hope that you are truly ready for the juicy gossip that's about to be spilt all over your pussy. Originally, I was going to title this video, The Swan Season 2, Where Are They Now? But actually, a better title for the reasons within this video that you will see is actually The Shocking Aftermath of The Swan, the most extreme plastic surgery reality TV show ever. That's kind of a long title, and I might actually make it a bit better than that. Right, so where do we start? Where should we start? Where do we start? I'm gonna start with the very fact that there is no reunion episode in this season. The reason why that is because this show was not renewed for a third season. Now that makes it kind of difficult to really understand what exactly happened to each of the contestants after the show, because the reunion for season 1 was actually the first episode of season 2. Because there is no season 3, we do not get a reunion of these contestants. I, for one, I don't know about you guys, but I, for one, am kind of glad that this wasn't reiterated for a third season, because I have a feeling if Nelly Galan and the other producers got their little mitts into it longer than they needed to be, I have a feeling that we would have seen maybe like 5, 6, or 7 seasons, very much like Extreme Makeover, this kind of thing that just keeps going on. So the social commentary climate around The Swan was generally very controversial. Most of the media around the times was actually writing negative pieces about the show, and its ratings were suffering because of that. So weirdly enough, this show was made around the time that internet forums were really the biggest way of sharing your opinions of something online. The social media that we did have was not anything like we would assume it is today, which is kind of micro sneezing into the void. And we don't need any more of that, do we?
No.
Because of the controversy surrounding this show and also the drop in ratings, actually media interest in the contestants of season 2 wasn't actually that big. It wasn't like people didn't go on and do loads of talk shows, loads of interviews. They didn't go on to like Dr. Phil or Fox News and talk about their experiences on the show. This kind of thing just didn't happen in season 2, which is in stark contrast to what we see at the end of season 1. This new show, The Swan Girls, everyone's going wild on it. The buzz around it is incredible. 300,000 people applied to be on it. And this season, season 2, we just sort of see all of that information, all of that excitement around the show fizzle out and actually turn into, this is a disgusting show that should not be renewed, and we shouldn't be putting these women through these processes. We as viewers of TV shows are generally very much a product of our generation, shall I say, and I don't think it's like far-fetched or extreme to suggest that most of the viewers of The Swan would have probably applied to go on season 3 if that was open. If I was an adult back then, I probably would have applied. Being on TV back in this day and age gave you a level of infamy and actually quite often transferred into fame. Nowadays, with the rise of social media, it's not quite the same, but people that were early outs in this season kind of have faded into obscurity, and that actually reflects itself in my research for this video. I found it exceptionally difficult to find anything on the contestants from season 2, except one, and we're going to talk about her in a moment. I think actually from reality TV in this specific time frame, aside from people posting on Reddit being like,
I had this obscure fever dream that there was this show. Was it real or was it fake? Somebody please answer me.
Outside of these posts, we generally don't hear of anyone or anything really talking about this show. There was one throwback, like Where Are They Now style newspaper article, which I believe was by the New York Post, in which apparently they got lots of the previous contestants to come back and talk and like share an interview. But that interview is nowhere to be found except for a couple of lines on their website. And I believe it's from 2013. And I mentioned it in the last Where Are They Now? Apparently they did go on TV and do interviews after their episodes and after their season finished. But none of those episodes can be found now. And none of the information of the interviews have been even bothered to be transcribed to put online. There was so much more information available from each contestant in season 1. In season 2, there isn't much at all. So why don't we start the Where Are They Now section with Cinnamon Smith, who she had a total of 1 article written about her online. And it is from Temple News. Now, Temple, I think, is a place in America. I'm not entirely sure. Shall I just Google that quickly to make sure I'm not completely lying at you through my nunny? Don't say nunny in a video on YouTube, Luxeria. What are you doing?
Disgusting.
Temple is in Texas. So there we go. Temple police officer gets TV makeover. This article is a little bit of like a little bit of a recap of the episode itself without actually saying a lot more about Cinnamon's life after the show. All of the links to every single piece of media that I am talking about today will be in the description box below so that you can go and read the full articles and watch the full videos if you want to. So in this article, they go again to state things like, under the rules of the Swan, no mirrors are allowed during the entire 3-month project. Now, you know my feelings on that. I think we've all come to that conclusion together, my lovelies. Contestants must follow a strict diet, exercise, and therapy program. Ironically, it's not really that strict of a therapy program. 1 hour per week is not really a lot, is it?
No.
Charles Leone, Deputy Director of the Temple Police Department, supported Cinnamon Smith's decision to appear on the show. In mid-August, Leone explained... Leone explained, Smith tried out for a new show in Center City and received a callback where she was eventually chosen as a contestant. Cinnamon Smith, who was currently on leave when this article was written, explained to Leone that appearing on the Swan would be beneficial for mental, physical, and spiritual reasons. She thought it would be a positive change in her life, Leone said. We thought this would add to her self-esteem. Oh, my necklace was back to front from all the excitement. Oh, unhinged. Smith wanted to shed her tough cop image for a more feminine look. The episode revealed that she had not been to a dentist in 10 years and she had to undergo serious tooth reconstruction as a result and experienced a breakdown when she saw the extent of her tooth decay. Then the article goes again to describe kind of how her reveal goes by saying, oh my god, I'm so happy, she shrieked while staring into the once forbidden mirror. I quite like that. That's very this.
Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest one of all?
Famed is thy beauty, Majesty, but hold.
Gats. She was thinner, blonde, and wore a form-fitting black gown with a plunging neckline. Oh. For a second, I was like, are you describing me? Thinner, blonde, plunging neckline. No. A far cry from her former self-described tomboy attire. This is interesting, though, because they have just explained here that almost the surgery wasn't actually the focal point of this makeover. Literally, they've said thinner, which we can kind of substitute as on a fitness routine. Blonde, that's hair bleach, and wore a form-fitting black gown. That's literally like, what not to wear?
Daytime tweed with an evening chiffon.
A far cry from her former self-described tomboy attire. Sure. I didn't recognise her, said Eileen Bradley, Captain of Special Services. It's going to take some time to adjust. We thought she was pretty before, Leone added. After the surgeries, Smith, along with another contestant, Patty, competed for a chance to win a place in the Swan Pageant final. Now, we know this. We saw this. We saw the whole thing play out from start to finish. In the end, the judges chose Cinnamon Smith to go onto the pageant because she worked hard and had an incredible outlook on life. We actually, watching these episodes, have kind of picked apart a few more things. It's never just like the person that's got a lovely outlook on life. It's usually the more traditionally considered all-around American beauty, I think, that goes onto the pageant.
Only one will make it to the pageant, girls.
Everyone has a way of feeling good, said Leone. I don't want people working here to be upset.
Sure, Jan.
Is this not about a police precinct? No? Okay. It's hard to differentiate between home life and work life. Gagged at the pageant. Me too. Leone added, a happy home life will reflect on your job. This will give her a new beginning, said Bradley. She's our Temple star now. This article was written on the 30th of November, 2004. Oh my goodness, we're nearly coming up to the anniversary. What would it be? Oh, God. Like 18 years or something obscene. So this article kind of feels a little bit more like a summary or a recap of her journey, of Cinnamon's journey on the show, but not actually really saying anything new from Cinnamon. It's kind of like they've gone to the police department and interviewed her boss about why he thinks she's had like a good makeover or something. Like, that's a really unusual, really weird way to conduct like journalism. Why would you not ask the reality TV star about their life after the show? I mean, sure, it's kind of interesting that they have asked people who would be on the peripheral of Cinnamon about like her experience. You'd also think that there would be a lot more articles about her experience on the show from her own mouth. And there just isn't. This is it. So when I was searching for information on the story of like, where are they now? What happened happened after the Swan from the former contestants, I was actually genuinely gobsmacked about how much judgmental nonsense is kind of thrust upon these former contestants. Listen to this Reddit comment right here. Jeffrey1313 says,
I remember the show, and after looking at that before and after, I can't say I find a single one of them attractive. Yes, they are no longer ugly, but nothing to write home about. Seems like most of them could have just done with the makeovers like What Not to Wear does, and they would have been fine.
I'm sorry. What not to wear?
Daytime tweed with an evening pussy.
This was kind of indicative of how people responded to the concept of extreme plastic surgery on reality TV shows at the time. This was 8 years ago, so this is a good still 10 years after the show has aired. Why does this Jeffrey person feel the need to be like,
I don't find any of them attractive. Yeah, they're not ugly, but nothing to write home about.
like, why does that need to be shared? I know this is an anonymous platform in which you can share anything you want, really, on Reddit. It's kind of like sharing your inner demons, your intrusive thoughts. But still, it's just kind of gross. Next up, we have Gina Davis, who was actually one of the more successful makeover stories on The Swan, and she made it all the way to the pageant. Will you stop sending me emails? Oh my God, in other news, Claudia from Janice Dickinson's modeling agency has accepted my follow request on Instagram. Now, if you can remember, Gina Davis lost her hearing at the age of 3 and was actually quite teased about it in her school life. So, Gina Davis has no mention anywhere on the internet ever, except for one thread on a website called alldeaf.com, and it is from October 2004. And basically, this doesn't shed any light on her life after the show. It actually shows that the deaf community is very excited about seeing representation on TV. And I think it's one of those things, again, that we forget. All representation from all walks of life matters on TV. There is only 11 comments in this forum thread, though, and that is the only mention of Gina Davis after the Swan. Next up, we have Delisa Girls, the winner of the Swan Pageant Season 2. The only reference to Delisa Girls that I have found on the internet is this one here, which is a lovely photo of Delisa Girls at the American Idol Season 4 Top 12 Finalists party in West Hollywood, California. That's it. That's the only mention of Delisa on the entire internet.
No.
This is where this video is going to take a little bit of a turn. There is actually a lot of information on the next contestant that we are going to talk about. Her name is Lorrie Arias. Now, both Lorrie and her son Brandon have very kindly actually reached out, both in the comments of that video and sent personal messages to me on Instagram. So I want to thank you guys so much for allowing me to share your story through this show and also learn a little bit more about the situation afterwards. So there is a number of articles surrounding Lorrie's post-show story. We're going to start with the Huffington Post. This article was written by Lauren Duca in October of 2014, and it is titled, "What It's Really Like to Get Extreme Plastic Surgery from a Former Swan Contestant." This is what it's like to get extreme plastic surgery. So I have a feeling that this reporter may have seen the reaction of people to Renee Zellweger's new look, considering it extreme plastic surgery, and then maybe reached out to Lorrie about her story of being on the most controversial plastic surgery reality TV show that ever existed. To be honest, I can't even believe there's more than one, but here we are. Remember bridalplasty? Bridalplasty! Stab! Oh, I haven't said that in like 2 years. The article goes on to say, 10 years ago at age 34, Lorrie Arias underwent approximately $300,000 worth of plastic surgery. In 1995, she lost 150 pounds, and in 2002, her husband passed away. And in 2004, she became a contestant on The Swan. After losing a significant amount of weight, the then police department volunteer auditioned for the show in hopes of getting a tummy tuck. Arias was frustrated that she had worked so hard to get healthy and still had so much extra skin. As a result of her sad story, the selection committee chose her for the show. That is a little bit of backstage tea there. I feel like a lot of these contestants were perhaps picked because of the kind of plastic surgery that they wanted on the show. Even though we've heard from Tonya's book that actually some people were even picked to have more plastic surgery than they wanted, which is kind of what we saw on the show anyway. It seems like some of the more transformative, relatively more straightforward cases were picked to go on the show, shall we say, just so that the show could get like the most from 0 to 100 shocking value in both transformation and plastic surgery technology at the time. I feel like there I've said an apt recap of the kind of show that the producers wanted to create. A decade after appearing on the show, she told HuffPost Entertainment that she is depressed, bipolar, agoraphobic, and believes she continues to suffer from body dysmorphia disorder. She has regained the weight she lost in 1995 and refuses to leave her home, save for trips to see her therapist every few months. The language used around this time is not very inclusive, shall we say. Sometimes people's mental health needs to be treated a little bit more delicately than just slapping a label on it and being like,
Well, that's it. That's what you've got. Bye now.
There is relatively little research regarding the psychological fallout from plastic surgery, both because extreme alterations are rare and it is not in plastic surgeons' best interest to participate or fund in such studies. Now, there is a nugget of truth in here that's actually like shocking that this actual mainstream media article has suggested, that it is not always in a plastic surgeon's best interest to report on cases in which the plastic surgery has not really gone to plan, or it hasn't necessarily fixed or addressed people's issues with why they went to a plastic surgeon in the first place. I am a true believer in the idea that plastic surgery is not a silver bullet. It is a tool to help on the ladder of self-improvement, shall we say. And even then, improvement is very much like in this sort of, what's this called? Air quotes, because improvement is very subjective for each individual person. I can't imagine that psychological evaluation back in 2003/4 was actually very good before going on reality TV. And I do wonder here about the power imbalance of this show and for someone like Lorrie going on it. So Lorrie states here that she believes she continues to suffer from body dysmorphic disorder. There is something about that sentence that makes me kind of go, why did these plastic surgeons on this show invite you in to get more surgery than potentially you wanted, without really acknowledging that plastic surgery is a tool to help manage something like body dysmorphic disorder and not a tool to get rid of it? I do wonder if maybe this language didn't really exist at the time, or perhaps that level of counsel was just not given to the contestants before they went on the show. There's even a little link to an article here, and basically it's about the ways in which unrealistic expectations can lead to disappointment following a cosmetic procedure. That's very true. For example, I had some lip filler go a little bit wrong about over 2 years ago now. It must have been 2019 that it went a bit wrong. And that actually led me to being a bit like, oh, that's maybe it's sad. Maybe I did have unrealistic expectations. I managed to go to a new practitioner, get it dissolved and refill to a point where I'm actually very happy with my lips now. But that's not an isolated incident, and it's definitely not the end of the story, because imagine if that was with something a bit bigger, like actual surgery leading to disappointment, and actually effectively adding more complications into an already complex situation, especially when you start bringing in mental health. The article goes on to say here that after appearing as a contestant on The Swan, Lorrie faced a lot of negative reactions from those who knew her before the surgery. You get a lot of crap, she said. Lorrie felt that some friends and family were jealous and that others were uncertain of who she had become. The latter group included the eldest of her two sons, who at the time said, "She doesn't look that much like my mum anymore." Now, this was something that I actually said during the show, that basically very young children were involved in the reveal process of this show. Now, I don't know if maybe science hadn't quite gotten to the point where it suggested that, children need to spend time with their parents in their developmental years of between 0 and 7? Is it 7? I'm sure I read somewhere that it's pretty much 7 years old is like when you've really started to solidify who you might be as a person for the rest of your life, like some of the interests you have before you're 7 years old, that kind of thing. The very fact that there is a direct quote here saying, "She doesn't look that much like my mum anymore," it's kind of disheartening, a little bit shocking, and kind of sad, because we saw that happen in real time on this show. We saw the kids' reaction being very sort of like difficult, because it was meant to be this big thing of like, mum returns back to the family, and a lot of the kids were a bit like,
Who is she?
it kind of gave that feeling of maybe they've just seen someone who's a little bit uncanny valley of someone that they used to know. And I really don't know about the long-term implications of what that might mean. "He has told me he felt afraid," Lorrie said. "That makes me feel guilty because I realized that if the shoe was on the other foot, I would have freaked out too." So Lorrie strikes me as someone who's actually done quite a lot of self-reflection, and actually has quite a lot of empathy to understand that people might be a bit surprised or shocked even, for use of a more strong word, about her going on this show. I do feel like we as humans humans are entitled to self-improvement, no matter what that self-improvement looks like to us. We're entitled to develop and progress in our lives. What I think was wrong about this show is that it took these women out of their lives to do it, instead of actually bringing everyone along for the journey themselves. This is where I kind of feel like this show varies from things like Extreme Makeover. On the Extreme Makeover episodes, we've seen where there is a partner involved. We've actually seen that the Extreme Makeover team kind of gets the partner to come with them or do some sort of like transformation in the same process. Obviously, you can't do that with children. It is unethical to put a child on a Swan program, let's be honest.
Time for a brow lift.
They're Signet girls!
No.
It was only on stage that Lorrie was given access to a mirror. She reacted with quiet surprise, only losing it when the cameras were off. I was screaming for an executive producer, she said. I was screaming, I want my face back. That's how freaked out I was. Intelligently, I knew that was impossible, but it was so weird. It was like looking at someone else, but it was you. This is where the mirror covering was the most unusual form of psychological, cruel and unusual torture, in my opinion. Yes, these women had agreed to go on this show and sort of understood maybe the vague outline of what this show was, but actually to be told there's no mirrors and you're going to go under this extreme makeover, this extreme plastic surgery, dietary, full body makeover, and you're not going to be able to see your face for it. She further goes on to say that feeling has become less difficult to reconcile over time, but Lorrie was happier before the show. I've had self-esteem issues all my life, she said, but before I was functional. Then I go and have all this stuff done that people would give their leg for, and I'm confined inside. And I can imagine that just suddenly being released back into your life caused a little bit of a shunt of growth, because there's you've gone off and done this incredible transformative journey, but your life is the same when you come back to it. And you can't progress in yourself and your surroundings also not progress at the same time, because that leaves you in this kind of limbo situation. So I can totally understand how during that limbo situation, other problems and other concerns might manifest. So continuing on Lorrie's story, I actually managed to find an interview by the Theagelesssisters here on YouTube, and it's titled Exclusive Interview with Lorrie Arias from Fox's The Swan. Now, Lorrie is in this video, and these are going to be all of her words, so we're going to watch a few clips from this video. I'm not going to put the whole thing in here because I don't think that that is correct. If you want to watch the entire interview from start to finish, the link will be in the description box below. Oh, I haven't said this in a while in a Swan video, my loves. Time to pop in the ohrhanger. And let's watch this exclusive interview from the Theagelesssisters with Lorrie Arias. Oh my God, sorry to interject immediately before we've even started this interview. That music, that is such a throwback of YouTube. What is that? Wild. That was, I remember watching What Style Is to Nickel with that music. Anyway,
hello, my name is Cynthia Rowland. I'm one half of the Theagelesssisters, and today I'm interviewing Lorrie Arias. And Lorrie was one of the contestants on The Swan.
The Swan girls.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
My absolute pleasure. You have quite a story to tell, because I realized that...
Kind of unusual for an interviewer to put their hand around a guest, but this is YouTube and not formal.
You wanted something new in your life after your husband passed away. Your son actually recommended that you contact the television show, The Swan. Yes, you did that. You were chosen, and then all of a sudden, you began to have lots of plastic surgery.
That is very true. Lots.
Lots. Let me just ask you a couple of questions. Are you happy with your results from your cosmetic surgery?
Oh, straight in there.
I'm happy-ish with it because I've had some complications, and mentally it's done a number on me.
So this is part of a conversation that didn't actually happen on The Swan, and there was no real talk about potential complications of plastic surgery.
Because I see everything now. I see things in other people now. So it's I don't know, it's just a little mentally challenging.
Okay. When you began to work with the people on The Swan, you were sequestered, I suppose, somewhere.
Yes.
And you were not allowed to see any of the results that they were creating for you.
Exactly.
And you told me earlier that you started with your lips, and then what? And then your chin.
Yes.
Wow. And then what else did they do?
That was the first surgery. Oh, okay. That was the lips, the chin, and the butt lift and the thigh tuck.
You had a butt lift too and a thigh lift? Oh my goodness, okay.
Yeah,
How can you sit down with that?
I just...
Can I just say, I'm finding this interviewer a little bit strange. She seems like overly invested in the idea of like, oh my God, how exciting, you've got plastic surgery. And to me, the point of this interview should be about Lorrie's experiences, not what Lorrie had done. I don't know, maybe that's just me.
I had a geriatric toilet,
Yeah.
a high-rise toilet, and my roommate actually had to help me in the bathroom. And so...
Poor thing.
So you're probably all bandaged here.
Yeah, I was bandaged here. I had the elastic headgear, and I was bandaged all the way around. It's like
Lorrie's
they cut my
skin
body in
looks
half
incredible.
and put it back together, and the scar ran down through the groin, up toward the butt. So it's just a whole lot of scarring and stitches.
Yes. You still have a lot of scarring.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Especially on the back.
Yeah.
This is something that's never talked about on the show either, is that all of these plastic surgeries will leave scars. You have scars after you have plastic surgery. Did we get any mention of any scar? Like how to manage scar tissue on the show?
And on my left hip.
And don't you have some problems there right now with your back and hips and things?
Yes, my left hip, the skin has grown so thin that if it continues to ulcerate, because it does from time to time, it's almost against the bone, and it can just rip open.
I actually saw a picture of that somewhere online, and it was amazing that you're able to actually function and walk around having an open abscess like that.
It is. I don't do much because of the pain and stuff sometimes.
Oh my God.
But I just try to
live through it.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, that was actually a really heavy moment there. So this complication that Lorrie is experiencing is in direct relation to a plastic surgery that she got on an extreme reality TV makeover show. This is in no way Lorrie's fault. And I know that there are going to be some people in the audience here that are like, well, they all decided to go on this show. They all volunteered for it. They went on, they signed the release forms, blah, blah, blah. It's all about informed consent. If I was told that one of my surgeries could potentially lead to me having such thin skin that abscesses will happen on it and it potentially could rip open an exposed bone, I would seriously reconsider what that surgery meant. But I bet that was not explained in a way that made it seem like a viable threat that might happen.
What was the next thing they did? And how long were you healing before they allowed you to have another surgery?
Oh, well, I was the only swan in the history of the show that was that had 3 parts. And I had the most surgeries of any. And
wow.
So it was every 2 weeks. Every 2 weeks you'd go under and have multiple surgeries, 7, 8, 9 hours.
That is some shocking tea. Imagine having 7 to 9 hours of plastic surgery every 2 weeks. I knew this show was extreme. I had no idea it was that extreme. When we hear about these procedures and the way that they show them with that funny little infographic of the lady that spins and then they're like, a brow lift, Da Vinci veneers, a tummy tuck liposuction goiter. It's never explained exactly how much time under anaesthetic that means, or that is, or how many times they have to visit an operating room to get those things. The idea of going under 7 to 9 hours of cosmetic surgery every 2 weeks for 3 times is just such a mammoth amount of surgery. That's not even just a mammoth amount of surgery. Think about the amount of morphine you have to be given, the amount of anesthetic, the amount of saline, the amount of medication, the amount of other things that happen to your body. That is extreme.
So the second one, I'm trying to think, it's been a while. I believe it was a facelift, the brow lift, and the eyes.
Is that a painful procedure?
It is. It's uncomfortable.
Yes.
And the nose job, that's uncomfortable.
Wow. And so did they have you sitting up for those first few days that you had that facelift and nose and all of that
6
done?
weeks, isn't
Well,
it?
we were lucky enough for the first 2 days after surgery to be in a penthouse at the W Hotel. And,
Wow.
And so we...
That is never shown once in the show, is it? That they're in a penthouse suite. It's kind of inferred that they just kind of go back to the retreat, whatever that little strange retreat apartment is where they've glued up all the windows. That's not what they do. They spray deodorant on the TV so you can't see your reflection. Glued up all the windows, girls!
And so we had a nurse 24 hours there. But once we got back to the pond, is what they called it.
The pond?
What was the pond?
The pond.
The pond. Oh my god, a swan joke. The swans that live in the pond.
Why aren't you making it to the
Pond. Wow, Nelly Galan, sis. What is she doing?
What was the pond?
The pond, the swan.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Where they kept you regularly.
Oh, yeah, then...
Swans in training or whatever.
Then we really had nothing. The nurses would come in every once in a while, but it wasn't, my roommate
Wasn't round the
took
clock
care of me more
care.
than their nurses did.
Roommate.
I even had some, my drains fell out. It unstitched and came out, and they're like, you just have to deal with it till tomorrow. I'm like, well, infection can set in, you know, but they didn't.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you came out without any infection though, right?
I did.
Except for your hole in your side.
Yeah.
And they have area.
So many years later.
So let me get this right. So they had you in counseling. You were talking about these things that had occurred to you.
Right.
But you never felt there was any resolution?
No, because each visit was a different part of the show.
I see. So they would just film that, and then you're left hanging with your feelings.
Right, exactly.
And then nobody's finishing their job to help you deal with all of it.
Exactly. It was unethical and devastating.
Oh my gosh. So Lorrie has just basically said there that each of the times they went in for therapy, it was for a different section of the show, not actually for talking about what's actually happening in the swan's life at that moment, or potentially things in the past that are coming forward, or potential issues that they need to work through. This goes to show that that therapy section with Dr. Iane could not be considered therapy, or should not be considered therapy, actually, because it was just spill your feelings in front of a camera for use on TV. The aftermath of this show is so shocking. The more I learn about this show, the more I am like, how was this even allowed?
So what do your sons think about this transformation? Have they been really supportive still for you?
Now they are. At first, they were terrified of me. They were terrified.
We saw this.
My little one was still little enough to be clingy, but my older son said, our dad died, now they took our mom. Yeah, and I couldn't change it. I couldn't reverse it. I mean, I tried at Reveal on the Swan. As soon as the taping of that was over, I screamed and I ran, and I demanded my face back, the old one, and had to talk to a psychologist from Fox and all that, and my son didn't like it. Of course, now they do.
Wait, so she had to actually talk to an extra psychologist afterwards, provided by Fox Network, in order for her to be able to adjust to her new face. That goes to show that the therapy given on the show wasn't therapy at all. I am surprised that not more of the contestants have come forward and said that this was actually like a bad experience for them.
And were there any men on the television show The Swan? How many people went through this?
There were 16 shown. 2 were completely made over, but they didn't get a show. They didn't get put on TV.
Really?
They were told to say that they never was on the Swan ever.
The secret swans?
And so they, from Reveal, were sent home.
Have you been in touch with any of these other contestants?
Oh, definitely. I'm still really...
I want to know more about these 2 secret swans. Who are they? They must have come out now, surely. The show is like nearly 20 years old. I wonder if NDAs and things have all gone now. Surely they must have. I'm really gagged about that. If you're out there watching, please get in contact.
What did you learn about yourself, too?
Well, I learned that the stuff from my childhood was really... It really got me worse than I thought. I thought I was dealing with it well until they exposed it. And so...
Have you been able to resolve some of that?
No. No, I'm on medication.
Do you go to therapy, though?
I go to therapy. I've gone to therapy for 4 years and a psychiatrist for a year.
I think this is the misconception with therapy. This lady here kind of said, like, but aren't you in therapy? In a way that kind of inferred that therapy is a fix. Therapy is not a fix to issues. Therapy is a maintenance. Therapy is a management system. It is not a fix. Broken people can't be fixed. They can just manage their conditions and manage their lives. This is the whole idea where it comes down to, I'm going to break this person down and rebuild them. There is no rebuilding. You just have to manage the breakdown.
And you cry because you're sad, or because it's cathartic, or you miss your husband, or what is it? What makes you so sad, Lorrie?
I miss my husband a whole lot.
Yeah. It's fun to be married to somebody so wonderful, isn't it? Well...
Stop!
You're a beautiful woman. And you have such a heart, a sweet, tender heart.
Thank you.
Yes, it's sweet. And you know, we
What
will
weird
just keep
vampiric
you
thing
in
to
our
say.
thoughts and our prayers, that everything sorts itself out for you. And I just want to thank you for being so brave and so wonderful to come here.
Well, I have some thoughts, both about that interview and also about Lorrie's story there. Firstly, what was that interviewer doing? I feel like that was a little bit of a awkward thing to watch. That actually felt a little bit unprofessional in a sense. And you know what? I'm not going to go for another YouTuber. They might not have the experience of interviewing people or things like that. But I am very surprised at how that interview went. So with that, my loves, I am going to take out my Ohrhanger and thank Lorrie for sharing her story, both with the Ageless Sisters and also reaching out and commenting on my YouTube channel. She raises some excellent points in the very end of that interview there about maintenance costs. Plastic surgery is not necessarily a forever thing. When it comes to something like a rhinoplasty, it can be considered a permanent change, but if there's ever anything that needs to be changed in the future, you have to go back into surgery for that. And the same thing with breast implants. Breast implants do expire and they do need to be changed, and that is absolutely something that needs to be explained and also considered in the future, that you will have to pay for breast augmentation potentially more than once in your lifetime. But, my loves, now we are on to something absolutely unhinged. Yes, the Swan Curriculum book, written by Nellie Galan. This is the official Swan handbook written by Nellie Galan, life coach for the Fox's The Swan Girls. Now, I believe that this was released before season 2 actually aired because there is no pictures of the season 2 cast in this book. All of us dream of how wonderful our lives could be if only we could look, feel, and perform our best. With the premiere of The Fox's The Swan, 15 million viewers tuned in to watch 16 women embark on this journey of self-transformation, with the aid of a troupe of specialists from therapists to cosmetic surgeons. Now, in the Swan Curriculum, Nellie Galan, the show's creator and resident life coach, reveals the step-by-step process by which you can initiate the same remarkable changes in your own life. Shall we have a read of this ridiculous book?
Yes!
Create a spectacular new you with 12 life-changing steps in 12 amazing weeks. That sounds a little bit like a rip-off of the 12 steps, doesn't it? Weirdly enough, a lot of what she says in this book is actually kind of applicable to life. For example, the very basic forms of saying things like, if you want to change your life, you need to begin to change your life.
Sure, Jan.
Things like, in order to make real lasting change, you must be willing to take risks and hold yourself accountable. This is very basic information. This is not relevant to the Swan. Stay strong! The Swan Christina underwent a struggle after her painful surgery and repeatedly said she wanted to go home. She missed her family terribly and worried that she'd made a mistake. But despite her pain, Christina held course, and look at her now. She wound up in the beauty pageant.
Wow. Crazy.
The book starts with 6 swan promises, each called Swan Promise and then their number. So the Swan Promise number 1, for example, is I will not give up. Commit to the 12-week plan and accept fear as part of the process. Swan Promise 2, I will stick to my routine. Turn the new you into the everyday you.
No.
And then in a very strange turn of events, during these swan rules, there's like these pages here, like for signatures. There's little areas here. And she's like, I am willing to acknowledge I need assistance and will not hesitate to seek it out. So sign here. So in this book, you have to like answer various quizzes and then you put your signature as a kind of like manifestation of being like, I'm going to invest in myself, signature. A lot of this information in here is freely available self-help information that is available in multiple different styles of self-help book. This is, however, kind of framed in the idea of alongside working on yourself, you can also completely change your life with $300,000 worth of cosmetic and plastic surgery. It talks about mantras such as, I deserve to be the best woman I can be. I deserve to take time for myself every day. I deserve to make changes to my life and my body as I see fit. I deserve to be beautiful. I deserve to be happy. I deserve passion. I deserve love. I deserve to be fit. I deserve to be indulgent sometimes. I deserve the same time and energy that I afford my job, my husband, and or my family. And then there's lots of blank pages where you kind of fill in the rest yourself. What do you want to do for work? And what do you do to make money? And then it gives you like this tiny area here to write about all the things you've ever done to make money in your life. And then it starts to become an exercise book as well, because it says here, review the worksheet and make a small check next to each box representing a part of your life you feel is not a problem area. And then you have to write a list of all the things in your life that aren't a problem. But at the same time, she's writing a list of like all the things that aren't a problem. She self-inserts herself here by saying, I've had a brow lift, I've had liposuction and a breast lift, and so can you if you do this curriculum.
Electric chair.
I feel like the Swan was kind of like Nellie Galan's form of beauty that she wanted to inflict upon the world. Because if we really think about it, she had work done by Dr. Dubrow and then created a show at Fox using Dr. Dubrow to kind of manufacture a very similar style for all of these women. They all came out looking a very specific type of beauty and a specific type of way to make it into a beauty pageant. The idea that this book here says on like working on yourself and improving your life is kind of irrelevant, because the whole point of then going and putting these women through extreme plastic surgery makeovers and making them compete on a pageant kind of removes all that self-worth and just purely makes it about how much surgery someone can go through to be considered beautiful. And then we have HD photos of all the women from season 1. So not only are you reading a book, writing down the areas in your life that you're failing, the areas in your life that maybe you haven't had the best opportunity to work and make money, you're then also faced with HD pictures of, if you do this, you'll somehow look like this, which is impossible without $300,000 of plastic surgery. Interestingly enough, at the bottom of each photo, it actually has a little caption of them from the show as well. Like Cindy Ingle here, it says, Cindy was a self-proclaimed witch.
A witch.
After a nose job and some in-depth work on the curriculum, she left as a gorgeous, confident woman who finally feels good about her decision to be a stay-at-home mum. Cindy Ingle was a lot more than just that. Then, in a bizarre twist, another bizarre twist in this book, more twists than Game of Thrones, she says here, finding your muse, coveting thy neighbour's success. Who are you jealous of? Write their name down. And this book is also filled with quotes from people like Tony Robbins, which, if you noticed, was actually part of the winning prize package for Rachel, who won the Swan, but also the subject of lots of controversy, because he doesn't really run a university or a degree or anything like that, but just takes money from people under the guise of self-help and entrepreneurship. Successful people ask better questions, and as a result, they get better answers. Do they? Do they? This section is titled The Green-Eyed Swan. Make a list of 10 people who make your eyes glow like emeralds. You can list anyone, a movie star, a historical figure, or even a neighbour. Don't stop to analyse your reasons, just make the list and move on. Is that green with jealousy, or is that like,
I just want to be my neighbour Kathy. She's got lovely bins.
Thank you very much. That's much better.
Good. Now look at the names you've come up with. Return to your list, jot some things down you envy about these people next to their name. For example, their beauty, their relationship, their career, their confidence, their poise, their hair, etc.
Mary has had surgery on her vagina to gain what she calls the fattest vagina in the world.
Is this helping? Is this helping to sit down, read a book that's actually based around extreme cosmetic plastic surgery and reality TV competitions, to then say, look at your neighbour, compare yourself to them. Why are you envious of them? Do they have better hair than you? Have they got better relationships? Have they got a better car? It's very capitalism under the guise of spirituality and trying to better yourself. That's not what this book is. This book is not going to make you feel better. This book is going to make you hate your neighbours. Converting jealousy into inspiration. Next, compare your habits to Kate Hudson. What? How are you going to compare your, average consuming, book reading, reality TV enjoying human being's experience to a multi-millionaire celebrity? My habits. I wake up and I leap out of the window and die. Death! She even then here perpetuates an absolute ridiculous lie here that I'm really shocked about. And she says, I know what you're thinking. Of course Kate Hudson can afford to do all these things. She's rich. While you're correct on that front, the truth is that you too can afford all of these things if you prioritize and find services offered at a price that works for you. $300,000 of plastic surgery is not a price that works for the average human being. On page 22, just ask yourself loads of questions about your life and then have a very small area for your answer because you're probably really sad and want plastic surgery, maybe a brow lift.
Time for a brow lift.
Then, my loves, we are presented with a really odd fictional situation. Well, I would consider it fictional because who the piss would behave like this? Listen to this. What do you like about your work? I was talking to a blackjack dealer who complained about the long hours, low pay and repetitive nature of her work. Nothing, she said. Not a thing. I suppose she thought that would be the end of it, but I don't let anyone off so easily. Do you know how to count numbers really fast because of your job? She agreed that this was true. And do you know how to size up a client really quickly because of your work? She admitted to being an unusually keen judge of character. What about fringe benefits? She mentioned something about free massages. In fact, before we were through, she'd compiled a list of about 20 bonuses she'd initially overlooked. This didn't mean she liked her job. It meant she was beginning to recognize its impact on her life. I am not here to convince you to remain in a job you hate. This chapter is about looking at the larger picture, about fact-finding, not resolution. Sorry, why would you ever go into a casino and be like,
Excuse me, Mrs. Blackjack Lady.
Do you hate yourself? Could I interest you in $300,000 worth of plastic surgery and the chance to compete in a pageant about swans?
No.
In a nutshell, don't buy this book. The best thing you can do is sit and actually self-reflect on some areas in your life that you know that you can make small progress within. Even little pigeon step progress is progress nevertheless. Don't compare yourself to others because the only person in your life that you should be competing against and definitely not jealous of is your own self in the past, my loves. Now, that concludes the absolute ridiculousness of the Swan Curriculum. In the bin! Death! Now, my lovelies, the next part of this tale of the shocking aftermath of the Swan is absolutely unhinged. One of the most unhinged stories I have ever heard relating to a plastic surgeon. Are you ready, my loves? Buckle in, buckle up, and get ready for the scandal, girls! In an article written in 2018 for Yahoo Entertainment titled TV Plastic Surgeon Randall Haworth Accused of Drug Use and Watching Porn During Surgery. If that isn't the most scandalous headline. Randall Haworth, a Beverly Hills plastic surgeon who's appeared on TV shows like Fox's The Swan, has been accused of illicit drug use and watching pornographic movies depicting violent beheadings during his surgeries. What? According to a proposed amended complaint filed in Los Angeles Superior Court on Friday, this was in March 2018, by the way, Haworth regularly played hardcore pornography and videos showing extreme and graphic violence such as beheadings on a monitor in the background during some of his surgeries. Laura Day, a former patient who first filed a malpractice lawsuit in January 2017, also claimed in the new filing, based on recent deposition of Haworth's former surgical consultant, that the surgeon failed to disclose he was having issues with his eyesight, particularly depth perception, following treatment for an eye tumor. The new court filing also accuses Dr. Haworth of regularly and unlawfully using the painkiller Percocet, including before and during his performance of surgical procedures. The new complaint is also charged that he regularly used other illicit drugs such as cocaine, MDMA. Imagine trying to do cosmetic surgery off your tits on MDMA. Not to take away the severity of the accusations, but unhinged. In addition, the new amended complaint complaint accuses Dr. Haworth of forging patient consent forms in order to keep his medical accreditation and charged that he routinely bullied unhappy patients who complained about his work. Reached by phone, Dr. Haworth denies the accusations and calls them preposterous. He goes on to say, "They might as well say I killed John Benet Ramsey," Haworth told the Wrap. He declined to elaborate further about specific accusations except to say the truth will eventually prevail. Haworth, a Beverly Hills plastic surgeon to the stars, has a roster of clients that reportedly includes Real Housewives of Beverly Hills star Lisa Rinna.
She pisses when she farts. Sometimes she shorts.
Weirdly enough, there's actually another case of Dr. Haworth going to court over a former patient who is very unhappy with the results of her plastic surgery. There is actually a Supreme Court copy of the entire 79-page transcription of the entire case. So much information is in this specific dossier. It is a little bit unhinged. Let's just say that. So the plaintiff in this case is Laura Day, and the title of the entire thing is Laura Day versus Randall Haworth, and it is about medical malpractice, breach of contract, breach of warranty, and medical battery, and also to include fraud, fraudulent concealment, fraudulent inducement, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and unfair competition. Now, this document is 43 pages long. I am not very versed in reading about legalese, like reading about how these sorts of things go ahead and the outcomes. Interestingly enough, though, Dr. Haworth released a statement on his website, and I'm going to read that for you now. It is titled, "Crime, Lies, and Vindication, an open letter to my patients, colleagues, and friends. For over 25 years in private practice, I have had the profound privilege to create and lead an incredible team of hardworking and dedicated professionals singularly focused on delivering the best comprehensive care in the aesthetic medical arena. As many of you are aware, this all changed when I became the unwitting victim of a former senior employee and likely co-conspirators who coordinated a series of malicious attacks to destroy my reputation and practice. Finally, I am able to reveal the truth. Let me explain. Approximately 3 years ago, at a time when my practice and professional life were flourishing, I discovered that an employee was embezzling large-scale funds from my practice. More shockingly, the same person was also illegally trafficking in prescription narcotics while working as a manager of my trusted team. Discovering this left me angry, frustrated, and with a deep sense of betrayal. This employee was an individual whose professional development I had supported and encouraged for almost 14 years and whom I had placed considerable trust. I terminated the employee and immediately notified all relevant authorities of their criminal activity. I also sued this criminal for the untold damages to my practice." He then goes on to state that the attorney that was used in this case has also previously filed a preposterous lawsuit against him. So on his website here, he has multiple links to different documents that suggests this former employee really did file an absolutely preposterous lawsuit against him, and that none of the accusations, especially in that article we've just read, have been truthful. And that the frivolous lawsuit by this former patient, former employee, and co-conspirators was dropped by their lawyers after she fired them. What an interestingly bizarre situation this is. Bizarre. Once again, it's one of those things where a media storm creates the most unhinged titles. Everybody clicks in and listens, and then actually someone's livelihood is at risk here. He finally finishes this article by saying, "While I wish that no one else ever finds themselves in a situation where another person's false accusations cause personal and professional damage, I know that there will always be people in our society whose actions injure and tear down the lives of others. This concept is deeply antithetical to my core beliefs as a surgeon, and I have devoted my life to actively building up and improving the lives of others." And Dr. Haworth released that statement in June 2020. So what a wild 3 years that must have been for him, my loves. But once again, we find more scandals associated and in the peripheral orbit of the Swan. And with that, my loves, I guess it is time to hang up the very end of the Swan Season 2. Wow. What a wild ride this has been. I potentially have some more Swan content coming out soon, so keep your eyes peeled for that, my lovelies. But please let me know what we have discussed in today's video in the comments box below. Let me know about any extra things that you have managed to find out about the Swan contestants, the show, Nelly Galan, all sorts of nonsense. And as a little Christmas treat, I will be putting all of the Swan Season 2 in a supercut for you whilst I am recovering from my own plastic surgery. And you know what I want to say a massive thank you to? The Patreons you can see scrolling past on the screen right here, my loves. It has been a mammoth journey covering this show from start to finish. The amount of scandals, life-altering decisions, shocking information we found out, And it just goes to show that plastic surgery reality TV shows are something that shouldn't really exist. What I have a problem with is the reality TV competition aspect. It's really shocking, isn't it? And of course, I also want to say a massive thank you to my top tier Patreons. Aloria, Laura Ali, Luke Peterson, Steph Utek, Orkos Emoji, Beebles32, Camille Sarah, Shell Herman, Christy Crownover, Christina Kyle, ContraPoints, Danielle, Danny Smith, Dr. A, Elizabeth Stone, Eric Castillo, Jen Martin, Jennabeth Herman, Jenny Hendricks, Laura Jane again, Les Banana, Min Min TM, Moriah Sherman, Nixie Tricks, Paolo Rivero, Rachel CC Biscuit, Ryan Vita, Sexy Texy RN, Slampire Queen, Traverful Tromo, and Victoria Corella. I really would not have had this success without you guys, the viewers, and you guys, my Patreons. Thank you so much for your continued support here on the Chanel. It is interesting to kind of put this to rest and be like, that's it. That's it now. That's the end of the Swan Season 2. And you know what, my loves? I'm gonna leave it on the note of even small amounts of progress in your own personal life, no matter what it is that you're working on, is still valid progress. And with that, my loves, I will see you in the next video. Yes.